What's up, guys? Welcome to the stream. What day is it? Wednesday? Happy Wednesday, everyone. Thanks for joining. Got some fire today. A little bit of drama in the life, so got a little bit of a rant today, which I'll talk about. Got some cool channel updates. I think I fixed the video issues. There was some weird video issues going on, so let me know how the video is. We're gonna be working on a Forgefiend today as far as hobbying. So I have the base here, and then I've gone ahead and basically sprayed the whole thing gold. I know there was some discussion about whether I should spray gold and then do blue, or do blue and then gold. On my Infernal Master that I finished yesterday on stream, I did the blue then gold because there was very little gold. It was just like a single model. This guy's a lot more gold, so I'm testing out this alternative version today, so we'll see how it goes. I'm going to do the base first because there was some questions from some of the viewers on how I do my bases, how I paint my bases. So if you guys want to check out a video of how I built this base, you can check out the hobby chat from, I believe it's Tuesday, or maybe on Friday's hobby chat last week. I built this base, so I showed you guys how to build the base. It's now been primed, and then I did go in with a little bit of black paint just to pick up any areas that the primer didn't hit. So I'm going to start by painting that. And then, yeah, we're going to work on the Forgefiend. I'm going to talk a little bit about some upcoming channel stuff. But also just there's, I guess, some comments in so my competitive corner 2 weeks ago is still kind of drawing a little bit of drama from the crowd, I guess. If you guys haven't had a chance to check it out, go check it out. And come back at some point and listen to, or it'll give you more context to what I'm going to be talking about today. But basically, people are upset about one of my opinions, and I'm going to address it today. And then on Tuesday next week, Politics and Plastic is back. And guys, I know I've been saying Politics and Plastic is going to be back for the last 3-4 weeks, but my guests keep falling through. I've been super busy. But actually, I now have a guest, and I have a great topic. So on Tuesday, we're going to have Tom Layton on, the lovely Tom Layton. And we're going to be talking gamesmanship. We're going to be talking submarining. We're going to be talking talking out games. All that kind of stuff on Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific. So make sure to tune in for that. It's going to be a very, very heated episode because I have a lot of thoughts on this. And I'll probably talk a little bit about it today by myself. One of the things I love about the hobby chat is I get a chance to kind of, talk about some of my ideas and opinions alone and kind of formulate some things and kind of talk myself through things so that when my guests come on, it's almost like a little bit of a prep session. And I kind of talk through some of my feelings. Hopefully you guys can, as I talk through some of the stuff today even, you guys will hear a little bit about my opinion on the subject. And I'd love to hear your guys' feedback on, what you guys think as far as, whether I'm crazy, whether I'm an asshole. Someone literally today said that they've lost all respect for me and that they think I'm basically like unsportsmanlike, etc., etc. Which I thought was really interesting, just based on some of my, and that like they were big fans of me. They even said that they unfollowed my restaurant on social media, which is supposed to be a big, I guess that's supposed to be a big insult. I don't really care, guys. Like, ultimately, and they also said that the rumors they've been hearing about me must be true, about the kind of person I am, which again, I don't really know what that even means. I guess there's a bunch of rumors out there about me, which frankly, I don't really care. I've never really cared what people thought about me. Ultimately, if I did, I probably wouldn't be streaming on the internet and getting in internet fights. So, all right. So with that said, let's do some painting and we'll get into that stuff as I get onto my, my Forgefiend. So we're going to start with heavy dry brush. So there's the colors we're going to need. Mechanicus Standard Gray, Administratum Gray, Talaran Sand. Those are going to be like our 3 colors for our base. And then we're also going to do the columns in Rekarth's Flesh, Agriculture Shade, and then a little bit of Screaming Skull. So I'm going to start by grabbing my big brush. Let's say this guy here. and doing a little mechanic of standard gray. Brian, how's it going, man? Thanks for joining the stream. Everyone else that's tuning in, thanks, guys. Hopefully you guys can see everything nicely. Make sure it's nice and focused. Maybe I'll just turn autofocus on. Let's see here. Let's see how that works. Movie server auto check. Okay, I never really use autofocus because I find like it's like not that great, but let's see how it goes today. So we're starting with some mechanic standard gray. Just gonna do like a really heavy dry brush with this. Guys, I really recommend, like this is just a synthetic brush. Oops. So I normally use sable brushes for all my work. I have really nice sable brushes, but I highly recommend you go get like some really cheap synthetic brushes for just work like this. Oh god, look what I just did already. What a mess. For dry brushing work like this, because you definitely don't want to be doing this with like a nice sable brush. So, or if you have some really old, you can get like a pack of like 20 sable brushes of like, of synthetics off Amazon for like, I don't know, $8. So always worth having some synthetics. So I'm gonna go back, big heavy dry brush, still leaving a little bit of the black. Oh fuck, I just remembered I forgot to do something. You know what, fuck it. So normally I'd put sand on this base, like there'd be sand on it as well, but I forgot to do that. But you know what, there's enough rock. I think we can get away with it, guys, no sand. So normally what I would do is I'd glue sand down as well, and I'd paint the sand, but we're just gonna wing it today, cause YOLO, right? Let's see if I can get the exposure up a little bit. I did sort my parking, and I did not get a ticket that one time, so that was nice. Although, there we go. It's a little grainy. So what I'll do is I will, there we go. My airbrush is, compressor is being really weird. So normally it's been turning on its own. I think there's like a leak somewhere, so I gotta figure that out. Cambobo, how's it going, man? Thanks for joining the stream. Okay, so first just very heavy dry brush of mechanic standard gray. Wipe off my brush, and you definitely want to leave a little bit of the black. You can see there's still some black in there. Okay, then I'm gonna go in with some administratum gray, a little bit of a lighter dry brush. So I just normally do like, you know, bases are one of those things where I feel like people are like, oh yeah, you know, spend a fuck ton of time on your bases, but I really just don't have the, I mean, unless it's a competition piece, I think bases should just be like, you know, get them done. Don't kill yourself trying to do these crazy bases. So you can see the texture of this base after it's dried, right? I mentioned when I was doing the building this base on Friday stream that it's going to be kind of rocky. And obviously how rocky it is really going to depend on how much texture you put into it, but I literally didn't do anything special to this. This is just kind of the natural texture of this material. Warhammer Plus, Corbs. It is on my note of things to talk about. I have a sticky note in front of me that's going to be on my list of things to talk about today, so I will get to it. All right, so that's it for that. And then what I'm going to do next is get a little bit of Tolaran sand. And this I just kind of spot. And this is just to add a little bit of color to it, because if it's just gray, it kind of looks a little bit dull. So this I kind of go, and I just very lightly kind of just throw in a little bit here. You know, not doing it all over, but just giving a little bit of color into the rock, so it's just not so monotone. And that just helps break up a little bit of the grayness just like that. Okay, next what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab another large brush. So I'm gonna grab a slightly less, and then I'm gonna grab my Rickarth Flesh, and I'm gonna basically do all the columns in Rickarth Flesh. So get a little bit of water here. And I want this kind of thin. So, and again, guys, you don't have to be super careful with this because it's gonna be kind of dirty. Just get it base coated. And don't worry if it doesn't, like you get some on the rocks and stuff, because I'll show you why in a sec. Once we now you're probably asking, well, Jim, that doesn't make sense. Why is the stone like different color than the rock? Like, wouldn't this like stone architecture be made of the same material? Like, wouldn't they mine it from like the same kind of rock? And you're probably right, but that doesn't look as good, so we're gonna do it in a different color. Because fuck realism, rule of cool rules. Okay, so there's my two little columns. Gonna give those a sec to dry. Eric, that's a great question. Hey Shane, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. Okay, so I'm gonna give that a sec to dry. While that's drying, the stone, I'm gonna do the rims because I did talk about the importance of rim job. So I'm gonna get a little bit of my Pro Acryl paint on primer. Yeah, and since I'm basically done with the dry brushing at this point, I feel good about doing the rim. And remember, guys, I talked about it yesterday, but the reason I use primer and not just black paint is because the primer is going to have a lot better resilience to the wear and tear of gaming. So if you use just like acrylic black paint, it works fine, obviously. But I find that the primer, because it's kind of designed to like, it's like polyurethane, it's going to kind of form almost like a plastic. It's a lot more resilient and kind of tougher than just regular black acrylic paint. It's going to stick on a lot better. So normally whenever I do my rims, I always use like black primer paint on rather than just like black paint. Okay, so I'm gonna give that a sec to dry, put that aside. Oh, thanks. Good to know. Yeah, the rim gets handled a lot. Okay, so that's gonna go aside. In the meantime, I'm gonna basically set up this guy. Okay, so what I've done so far is I've just done this dry brush, or sorry, this airbrush of Victorian brass. But what I'm actually gonna do now is I'm gonna go again with my airbrush, and I'm gonna hit all the silver areas with the airbrush. And I'm not too worried about overspray because the whole model is gonna get like a big blue wash. And then once I start to go highlight stuff, if there is a little bit of overspray of like the silver onto the gold, I'm actually like, you probably won't even be able to tell once it's all washed and then re-highlighted. But by going in now with my airbrush and kind of hitting all the silver areas, it's going to save me a lot of time in base coating the silver as well. And then I might, and then I'm going to go in with the blue, and I'm going to hand paint all the blue areas with just like by brush. So I'm going to grab my airbrush and kind of go in there. Let's see how we can do this. Also, yeah, so while I do this, let me talk to you guys about what happened today. So, as you know, I exist on the internet, and I have this YouTube channel, which thankfully you guys are watching right now. Many of you guys are watching right now. And, you know, for the most part, I get fairly positive comments on the content I do. Sometimes I get some negative comments, or not necessarily negative comments, but sometimes I get people that just like, they're like, hey, like, I saw the episode. This is my opinion. And I actually really love that. I love it when people post their their like opinions. Like maybe like there's a comment like, hey Jim, maybe I disagree with you on this. And in a lot of times, almost 90% of the time, if someone has like a opinion that I disagree with, or they disagree with me, it's usually very polite. And then we'll maybe have a little bit of a conversation in the comments. I'll say, you know what, like there's a, and I'll get into an example of that. So a very good example of that is, I had a comment recently about whether or not, and this is something that me and Tom are going to talk about on Tuesday. So this is kind of a preview. There's a conversation that me and Tom had, that me and Alex had, which was, is it, if you're playing a game and you're not enjoying that game, right? Do you have an obligation to finish that game, right? So whether you're not enjoying the game for whatever reason, it could be you don't like the opponent, right? Could be because you're just not having fun. Maybe you're in a bad mood. Maybe you're just not feeling well. Maybe you are losing really badly and the game is already decided. And for you, you'd much rather go drink with your friends. There's a million reasons that during the course of a game at an event, you might think that there's no point in me playing this game, and me to continue playing this game it's not something I'm going to enjoy, right? That is a very real thing. It's happened probably to all of us. Now the question is what should you do? Like, do you have an obligation, right, to play that game, even if you're not having a good time, even if you don't want to do it, even if you're not enjoying yourself? Now, there's probably people on both sides of this argument. I'm of the firm belief that if this is ultimately a game, and games are meant to be fun, and if you're not having fun, if you're really miserable, if you just don't want to be there, then don't force yourself to play that game. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think ultimately, if you're just really not having fun, then you don't owe your opponent anything to play that game for them, right? And some people are saying, well, no, Jim, right? They're saying this is the argument. They're saying, well, Jim, maybe your opponent traveled for 8 hours to get to that event. Maybe your opponent paid all this money for the hotel. Maybe your opponent, yada, 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 all these reasons. So they deserve for you to play that game because they deserve to play. They came all the way to this event and they deserve to have 5 games, right? They deserve that. Well, I would counter that argument by saying, well, what if you traveled 8 hours? What if you paid all this money? What if you went to this event and you're not enjoying it? Is it do you owe, like, it does none of that factor into the fact that you're now being forced to play a game? Like, why is it that their enjoyment is more important than your enjoyment, right? Now, I'm not saying be a poor sport or be a sore loser. That's not what I'm talking about, right? Like, obviously sometimes people lose games. What I'm saying though is, like, people are saying, well, Jim, you're being selfish because if your opponent did all this travel, etc., they deserve to play that game. Well, I would argue, and I stand by this, that it is selfish to think that you should force your opponent to play a game they're really not enjoying. You should force them to do something they really don't want to do so that you can say that you got a full game. If you're already winning that game, like, look, you've already won that game. Your opponent doesn't want to play the game anymore. You've already won the game. And now you're saying, well, you should have to play me, continue to play me, even though you fucking don't want to and you hate it, because I traveled all this way and I deserve it. That for me is actually fucking way more selfish than the person who's like, look, you won the game. Let's shake hands. I don't want to be, I don't want to play that game, right? Now, look, I'm not saying be rude to your opponent. I'm not saying, as you said, Brian, I'm not saying be rude to the opponent. I'm just saying, look, if there's a point in that game where you're like, you know what? I'm just really not enjoying this game. I don't, like, you've already won. There's no point us playing anymore. I don't think you should be forced to stand there and suffer through another hour and a half of that game, right? Yeah, but Timothy, that's my point though. Why is it? So great question. Timothy's saying, why don't you just default to what your opponent wants? Why is it that your opponent has veto power or ultimate say over whether or not you should be forced to do that? Like, what is special about why is that? Why does your opponent get that ability to be like, no, so I want you to play this game. I want you to not enjoy it. I want you to suffer through it. Why does your opponent have, like, what is it about your opponent that gives them that amount of like authority over you? Now here's a big thing, guys. Many people will say, and this is why we're going to have this topic on politics and plastic on Tuesday. And I've heard it a lot recently. This idea of spirit of the game, right? So they'll say, well, it's not in the spirit of the game. Well, what is spirit of the game, and who defines spirit of the game? Because in my perspective, an opponent that forces their a player that forces their opponent to play a game when they don't want to, that's against the spirit of the game. Right? That for me is against the spirit of the game. When you're forcing someone to really do something that they don't want to, right? When they're already losing the game and you're like, no, you have to play this game. That is against the spirit of the game. It's not against the spirit of the game if someone's really not enjoying themselves, then say, hey, you know what? You won this game. We'll work out to make sure you get the right points. And we're going to talk about that on Tuesday as well. It's like, okay, well, if someone does want to quit, what is the mechanism by which they can do so to not screw over the opponent? Because I think that's no, but I don't think it's the high road. This is my point. I disagree with you. Like, and that's okay, Timothy. We can disagree. That I don't actually think it's the high road to suffer through that. That's not the high road to me. And if your opponent makes you suffer through that, that's not the high road either, right? At the end of the day, this is a game we're supposed to be playing for fun and enjoyment. And as soon as my opponent, here's the thing, I personally am of the mind, if at any point my opponent is not having fun and doesn't want to be there, then they don't have to be there, and I'm not going to continue to force them to have fun, right? I'm not going to say that I'm not going to be self-centered, because if the roles were reversed, and I would never force my opponent to play a game they didn't want to. That is absolutely against the spirit of the game, right? No, now Dr. Dutes, you make a very good point, and that's something separate, and I do want to talk about that on Tuesday, which is in those situations where someone wants to quit early, there needs to be a mechanism whereby you can either talk out the score or give your opponent gets a certain score to not screw over the opponent, right? So that is really important. 100% that has to happen. You can't quit, you can't quit and screw over your opponent. That absolutely I agree with. And what that looks like, what that mechanism is, I've talked about in the past. I think it needs to involve a judge. I think they need to kind of come to the table, assess the table situation, and make a call. Or it could be a situation where you just get like 100-0 or whatever. But my point is, and here's the thing, guys, we can disagree on this point. And Timothy, I understand your perspective, and we can disagree that it's not good if you don't want to play a game and you concede. We can argue back and forth, and I'm willing to have that argument, whether that's poor sportsmanship because you don't want to play. I would equally push back and say it's poor sportsmanship to force your opponent to play. Now, we might not ever come to an agreement on that. We might just be like, you know what? We have two different perspectives on this, and that's okay. And that's okay. I'm not saying that's not okay. Now, why am I even telling you guys this story? Well, it's because someone left a comment basically saying, okay, guys, by the way, I did the rims. Now I'm going into aggregate crochet on the columns. Someone left a comment basically saying that, no, Jim, like they should be forced to play the game. And I'm like, you know what? I don't agree, but that's okay. I mean, we can agree to disagree on like what we think is poor sportsmanship. For me, it's forcing your opponent to not play a game they really don't want to, and for them, it's quitting a game that you don't want to play. Like that's two different perspectives on the same situation, right? Now there might be some argument out there that might convince me otherwise, but at this point, that's my position because, and I've been on both sides of it, right? Like I've been in games where my opponent didn't want to play, and I was like, hey, if you don't want to play, that's no problem. Like we won't play. Like I'm not going to force you. And I've been in positions where I haven't wanted to play, and I would have hated if my opponent made a big fuss because they were like, well, you know, I traveled this way, blah, 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 and they tried to guilt me into playing. I would have hated that too. right? But the point is, in that specific case, right, Timothy. So exactly. Thank you. That's my point. That's one of my points, right? Is that it's not that common, right? In general, most players, right, are like good sports about it, and they're like, hey, you really don't want to play, man? That's okay. Like, I've never been in a situation where I've even seen someone forced to play a game, right? But here's the thing. No, it's not. The thing is, it's not like a lightning strike, because guess what? It also shouldn't be a bad thing. Like, there's this, so there's two parts to it, and I'm getting kind of sidetracked because this doesn't even have to do with the main topic that I want to talk about. That's okay. That's what I got nowhere to be. So, the important thing to understand though is, like, as a player that doesn't want to play that game, right? I shouldn't also feel guilty to even suggest that we end the game early, right? Like, maybe it doesn't happen that often because players are in the same mindset that you're suggesting, which is they think, hey, I really don't want to play this game, right? But I really don't want to play this game, but I feel bad, or it's bad spirit of the game for me to give up or to not play the game. So I'm going to force myself. I'm going to continue playing this game that I don't enjoy because I don't want to be seen as a bad sport or someone that's being against the spirit of the game. That is a stigma, right? That is an attitude that needs to die. So if someone feels like at that point they don't want to play the game, they should be able to say that. Now, I want to be really careful here. I'm not advocating that, like, hey, as soon as you're losing the game, as soon as, like, it's going a little sideways, people should just give up and walk away from the game. I almost every game I finish, even if I know I'm gonna lose, maybe we'll call it like turn 5 or whatever, but I'll still play those games till the very end. And I don't want to create a culture where as soon as a player loses the game or is losing the game, they give up, right? Because there's been games where I thought I was going to lose and I came back from. So I want to be really careful that I'm not trying to advocate for this, like, culture of, hey, as soon as you're losing, you just give up and every game only goes till 3 turns. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you're legitimately just really not enjoying the game, whether it's because of the way the game's going, it's just so one-sided, whether your opponent is just, you know, maybe he's just rubbing you the wrong way, you're just not enjoying it, you're tired, you know, your friends are all like, you know, you want to really go just spend time with your friends or your family, you want to go early from home from the tournament for whatever reason, where it's like a legitimate reason you don't want to finish that game. I don't think that you should feel bad for saying, hey man, I'm just really not feeling this game. Do you mind if we call it? And then obviously there needs to be a mechanism to make sure your opponent doesn't get screwed out. But people don't do that often because there's this stigma, there's this, like, impression that people that do that are being bad sports. And I think that's something that needs to go away, because I don't think people should be, as I said, people are under this impression that if they quit early, or if they really just not enjoying it and they say that to their opponent, then they're, like, being bad sports. So that's the first thing. Anyways, my whole point with all this, guys, was that I made that point in a competitive corner. Someone made a comment disagreeing, and we had a little bit of back and forth. They said, you know what, I disagree with you, just like you did, Timothy. And we had a very civil conversation about it. Okay? Now, also in that episode, I said something else, which was very controversial, and I'm going to talk about it tonight, which is that we were talking about gamesmanship, and that's one of the topics in the topic of the Toby chat, and what gamesmanship means, and people that do that kind of stuff. And what I mentioned was that I think there is a level of gamesmanship that is part of the game. Now, I didn't say that players should go and, like, intimidate their opponents, or they should, like, make fun of them, or they should do anything, like, kind of, like, overt, right? But what I said was, part of any game, and this is something that I took a really hard lesson of. So I want to tell you guys a story. Is a game that I'll never forget, because it was the BAO final against Jeff Robinson. So it's the last event basically he played before he passed away. And I played him in the final game. And if for those of you that have met Jeff Robinson, he is like he is like a larger than life guy. He was like a huge personality. Yeah, it's 2019. Huge personality, very imposing guy, big guy. I'm like 165, 170. He's a big dude, right? He's taller than me. He's physical. He's very sarcastic. He's very like he's very intense at the table. And one of the things that I remember was that there was a point in that game where he kept kind of talking to me and saying things, and like it wasn't anything that was like, you know, Jim, you're a shithead, but like things would happen on the table and he was kind of getting a little bit under my skin about it, but not in like, and you guys can go watch the stream. It's on the Frontline Gaming channel. You can go watch the final stream. And one of the things that happened during that game, there's like a point, and I was tired, guys. I'd played, I think 8 games or 9 games in like 3 days. I'd won all my games. I was the only undefeated player going to the finals. And I was exhausted. Like there was just a lot in my head, and this was a big game against Jeff, who's a big, like it was just like a lot of pressure. And there was a point in that game where I felt, and if you go back you can probably see it, where I started to make a few mistakes for whatever reason. And a big part of that mistake making was that what I would say is gamesmanship, was that Jeff was an intimidating guy, right? Like he wasn't super like forgiving. Like at one point even I think if you guys watch the stream, you guys will see this point. There was a point in the game where I was so nervous trying to move a bloodletter that I dropped it, and everyone accused me of like cheating by like trying to drop the bloodletter like a set of jacks to like knock over models. But I was literally just nervous because Jeff was fucking standing there breathing over my shoulder, right? And it like threw me off my game. And what I said in the stream on that Monday was like, there's a level of gamesmanship that's part of the game that I actually don't think is like bad gamesmanship, or I don't look at as like cheating or intimidation. I just look at as kind of this like table intensity. And what I remember and what I took away the most from that game against Jeff wasn't that Jeff was like mean to me or intimidating. What I took away was that I need to be more mentally tough when I'm in those high pressure situations, right? And that is what I took away, was that, hey, like I actually maybe lost this game because I got rattled for whatever reason. Maybe it was some of the comments Jeff was making, the jokes he was making, you know, everything was in jest, but it was friendly. And the timing, like you could probably look at that and say Jeff was bullying me. Like you could, and a lot of people in chat actually said that, right? They're like, Jeff's being really mean to Jim, or he's being like really intense to Jim. And I didn't see it that way, because as a competitor, I believe that part of competing is not just being good at what you do, skilled, but it's also being mentally tough. And that is the point that I was trying to make on Competitive Corner a few weeks ago. It wasn't that I agree with this idea of bullying, or this idea of like gamesmanship at the table where you're saying things to throw your opponent off. What I was saying is that even though I don't do those things, and I want to be really clear, I'm not that kind of player. I'm very quiet when I play. I'm very intense. I don't even really talk to my opponent that much. Like there's a reason I never win sportsmanship awards. I'm just very intense and very focused. But and I try to be jokey sometimes, but you know, if it's a really competitive game, I'm not like that. But Jeff is the opposite. He is just like a big ball of attitude and like sarcasm and jokes, and to the point, and like physicality. Like he's a big guy. He's standing close to me when I'm doing things. That you could look at and say that was bad on Jeff to do those things, and he should have just sat there quietly like a chess game. I don't actually see it that way, and I was the like person that suffered that, right? But my point was on Competitive Corner wasn't that people should do that to their opponents and they should push people around. My point was that social interaction, that sometimes is part of the game, and that I don't think it's literally like cheating, or I don't think it's like I don't think Jeff was trying to do that in a way where like it was like to you know, I think that was just his like personality. So that was the point I was trying to make. And the guy, where I'm going with this, the guy in the comments basically said he has lost all respect for me, and that if that's the kind of player I am, because I think that that kind of behavior is okay. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, I've been the victim of it. That doesn't mean I do it myself. So anyways, that was kind of the conversation on Gamesmanship. I don't know what you guys think. In my head, when I look back at that game, yeah, definitely Jeff was an intimidating guy and like was intimidating, and he did things that like I guess made it harder for me to focus. But I never looked at that and said, oh, Jeff was cheating or trying to do something untowards. For me, I look back at that as someone that competes at a high level, or did anyways, and I said, I need to be a better competitor. Like I need to be like better and stronger at the game, right? Like I need to be mentally more tough in those situations. Yeah, Grim, I agree. Hey, Dr. Ranaman, how's it going? Anyways, go check out that game. It's on Frontline Gaming. Very open. It's a great game. And you know, in the end, like guys, I was very happy Jeff won, and obviously in retrospect, even happier Jeff won, because that was the last. It was a really important event to him, and you know, obviously it was the last event he won before he passed away. So, you know, I have no like hard feelings or like malice, but I guess the point I was trying to make in that whole time was that being mentally tough, being a strong mentally, being able to stay focused, those are parts of competing, right? And it's not up to your opponent to, you know, basically make it as comfortable and as stress-free as possible for you, right? Sometimes that is part of competing, right? Exactly, K-Pi. Now, am I advocating for like you going in and like making fun of your opponent and doing all this shit? No, I'm not saying that, because I don't do that. All I'm saying is that sometimes that's part of the game, and I don't think that's like the end of the world. And you know, I think about a good opponent, a good competitor, basically someone that's going to work on their mental toughness and be able to overcome those kinds of things, you know? That's all I'm saying, right? But instead I got the guy was basically like, you're a failure, I was looking up to you, and like basically you're like, I don't know, he just basically tried to make me feel really bad about it, and I don't feel bad about that opinion. I stand by it. Right? I'm turning off the autofocus, guys, because you can see how annoying it is. Yeah, exactly. Look, I make fun of my friends when we play, right? Like when people have fucking dice rolls, you make a little bit of fun with them and stuff, right? So like that's like, especially with my buddies, like that's something that I do. That doesn't mean I'm like being gamesy, right? My friends get me drunk and feed me drugs the night before my final. Does that make them gamesmanship? Like, is that gamesmanship? I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that I didn't do it willingly, but they definitely encouraged me and egged me on. Exactly, they're there with me, right? But my point is like, I don't know, I'm just saying at the end of the day, like these are things that for me are part of any sort of competitive thing, is like mental toughness. It's like it's making sure you you prepare mentally, and I think that's part of the game. Now some people might disagree. They might say that no, like Warhammer should be like chess, and you should be basically making it as comfortable as possible for your opponent. I disagree. Anyways, so that's my rant on gamesmanship. We're gonna talk more about it with Tom on Tuesday, 6 p.m. So love to hear your guys' thoughts, and I appreciate everyone's feedback, because it's not an easy subject, right? Like, at the end of the day, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, right? Like, I'm not saying that like that I'm right and everyone's wrong. I'm just saying that's just the way I look at it, right? Like, I'm not gonna sit there and complain and say, oh, my opponents are, you know, too intense, they're too serious, and it's throwing me off. Because even if it's not intentional, there's always gonna be things that are gonna throw you off in any given game, right? So for me, the solution isn't to complain and say, oh, well, Jeff Robinson is too intimidating physically, so I don't want, it's not fair that we have to play because he physically intimidates me, right? Like, that would be crazy. Did I miss? Anyways, that's my thoughts on it, guys. Hope you yeah, hope it gave you some thought. Maybe I changed some minds. Maybe you guys changed my minds. Yeah, I agree, Dr. Rhino, man. Like, at the end of the day, like, treat your opponent with respect. You're not there though. Like, it is a competition, right? Like, we've all seen the like sports. You know, we watch fucking like any sort of sport. There's always trash talk. There's always like calling out. There's always like that kind of stuff. The question is like, do we want that in our Warhammer? And if the question is like some of that is okay, to what extent, right? Like, do we want a little bit of like trash talk? Do we want a little bit of like, you know, that kind of like banter back and forth? I don't think it's that bad. I don't think it's that like destructive. Now, some people will disagree. They'll say, no, like, it should be a gentleman's game. Everyone should be super polite. Like, everyone should be like fucking like kissing each other's asses and like hugs. And you know what? That's fine too. And I'm not saying, and even when I say like there should be some of it, I want to be clear, like, that's not how I play. I'm actually like kind of antisocial when I play. Like, I don't actually talk that much. So for me, it's not that I want that kind of behavior because I want to do it. I just don't think it's like a thing where like we need to like create a bunch of like rules and say, okay, well, this is like against the code of conduct, or because, you know, if you act this way. Like, I think those kinds of like kind of light jabs and light like that interaction, that kind of like, you know, ribbing a little bit, like that little bit of like, you know, calling, like that kind of stuff. I think that's just part of any competitive game, personally. And you got to be prepared for it as a competitor. Now, you might not enjoy doing that, right? You might think that it's like bad sportsmanship, and you probably have a very good point there. But I'm just saying that, like, if my opponent's participating in that kind of like, you know, that kind of like ribbing and that kind of like that you know, just like making it so that like my game's a little bit harder, you know, and, you know, they're kind of trash talking a little bit. I don't think that that's something that's like cheating or like bad form or anything like that. I just think that's part of, you know, we're playing a competitive game. There's competition involved, and just like everything where there's competition, I think there's some level of that, right? I think there's some level of that like back and forth. So I don't know what you guys think. Hold on 1 sec, I'll be back. I'm back. Anyways, that's kind of my thoughts on it. I don't know if it's the right opinion or the wrong opinion or what, but I just realized I may have like forgotten a piece in my... I did. There's one. And there's two. Let's see, am I gonna be able to get it in? I basically forgot two pieces in my Forgefiend as I'm painting it. So I'm gonna see if I can glue them in now. Might not happen. But anyway, so that's my thought on that. Should be an interesting conversation on Wednesday with Tom, because I think he has, I don't want to say similar ideas, but I definitely think he's going to have very strong opinions on it as well. So we'll see kind of what happens. But yeah. All right, let's talk Warhammer Plus. Did you guys get Warhammer Plus? Who got Warhammer Plus? How is it? I heard there's only like fucking like 3 episodes of shows on it. Is that true? I'm just gonna probably, I mean, I assume everything will be out on Pirate, like, not Pirate, on like, let's see, come on, get in there. You got it, and you can't fucking log in. Sweet. Are you surprised? Okay, one sec. I just gotta glue this in. Come on. I might just give up on this piece. Why is super glue so strong sometimes? I need to rip the arms off. Okay, can I rip these arms off without breaking this thing? There we go. Oh shit. Jesus. Oh, I broke the arm. Or it ripped off. That's okay. I can glue it back on. Look where it broke. Oh well, I'll just glue it back on. So this little piece I was missing, but at least now I can put it in. This is what happens when you don't follow the instructions, guys. You forget pieces of your model, and then you have to rip them in half after you've started painting them, so you can glue on the pieces. So make sure you follow instructions. Valnis, I don't know how you say your name. Why do I think Forgefiends are strong? Well, a few reasons. First, I think they provide, as you mentioned, they don't cost CP, which is nice. I think the AP, being able to have something that goes up to AP3 is really important. So right now, Thousand Suns, besides the Volkites, even with the stratagem, they're only AP1. And in a lot of like situations, that's just not enough AP. You really want, you know, more AP. So for me, being able to go up to AP, fuck, that's really fucked up now. Being able to go up to AP 3 with the stratagem, I think is really nice. The 2 damage flat, again, yeah, you don't get the mortals, but it's against, like, the thing with the mortals though, it's so like it can be very inconsistent, right? Like if you don't hit those 6s, then your gun doesn't really do much, especially because it's got 1 AP1. So I just find in a lot of matchups having a second, like having that variety of like shooting, I think is nice. I also think that, like, obviously, sorry, one sec. While I move this on. Yeah, I just think there's like there's a strength in the variety of shooting. Having that option of the AP3 shooting is really strong. We don't have a lot of like high damage high AP shooting. Also, it can fight in close combat, which is nice. Okay, glue it back on, and then we're good to go. Yo, EJ Comics, man, how's it going? Welcome to stream. No, it's okay. I'll tell you. I do think so, K-Pie. Like, I played a game against salamanders. The problem is though, like, K-Pie, there's not enough psychic defense in any army to stop them, right? So like, yeah, you might be, you know, throwing in a relic that gives you like a deny, or you might throw in like something that gives you a mortal wound, feel no pain or whatever, but there's just not enough. There's not enough, like, there's no amount of psychic defense that can stop, like, when you're doing like 14 casts a turn, there's nothing that can stop you. There's no psychic defense for that, right? So it's like, do you then at that point, do you just like say fuck it, not invest any points and go like 0 points? Or do you like double down and try to put in as more psychic shit, right? I think so. I'm running 1 Volkite, 1 Forgefiend. Well, how do I say your name? Valensis. I'm running 1 Forgefiend, 1 of each, because I think that fuck, where's my airbrush? Oh, it's over there. Shit, I thought I dropped it on the ground. I think that that's like a good compromise. Personally, I definitely feel like having at least the Forgefiend is nice. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry for a sec, so I'll just re-glued it. So personally, I do think it's nice to have 1 of each. But I mean, your mileage may vary, right? Like, depends on what else your list is in your list. I actually really like the Mauler Fiend. I know people make fun of it. But it's actually, for like the 140 points, it gives 1,000 Suns like a really scary melee threat. So like right now, like, you don't have a lot of melee threats in the army outside of like your 1 big brick of Scarab cults, because rubrics can't fight worth shit, right? And your Scarab cults, I mean, they're good, but they're not invincible. I really like the Maulerfiend, like a Maulerfiend running around, like maybe in support in your backfield. I don't think that's the worst thing, you know? Once you start buffing it, +1 to hit, the close combat attacks are quite nasty. Yeah, I'm gonna be running. I'm just like basically ordered 5 spawn. So I'm gonna be running some spawn, a 5 block. But yeah, I do like spawn. Sorry guys, somebody just finished airbrushing. Sometimes when it's weird, like it's hard for me to actually. You'll be surprised how hard it is to like hold a conversation and focus on painting sometimes. Harder than it seems. Okay, so there's all my pieces, airbrush silver. Now I'm gonna go in with my blue. My base is still drying, guys, so I'm just waiting for the last of this. That's probably dry enough. So bases, I did the wash on the whatever color that is, the Ricarth. So now I'm gonna go in with the Ricarth again. Do a little dry brush. And the reason I didn't really care that I got the brown wash onto the, the previous dry brush onto the stone is because once you do that kind of brown wash, it kind of hides it all. Okay, then I'm just gonna grab a little bit of Screaming Skull. Why'd I ditch the metal colors? I didn't ditch the metal colors. The Vallejo ones, I still have them. I haven't really used them that much. And this army is already been started with a certain scheme of metal. So I want to match it, right? But if I do a new project, like a new project that's like heavy in the metals, I'll probably use them. The problem is like I want to color match all my stuff. So this is using the metals that I used on the old 1000 cents. Okay, there's a little stone. And usually what I'll do at this point is I might go in with just a little bit of a edge highlight. Just pick out that area. And I think what I'm going to do here, just to give it a little bit of interest, this 1000 sun symbol, I'm going to just pick out in some blue. So I'm going to go with Sotek Green. And you can see I'm just kind of doing it really rough here because it's just terrain. And I'm just going to give it kind of so I'm not going too crazy because I want it to look worn, right? Alright, so there's that. A little bit of color. And then what I'm going to do is grab my static grass and my rocks. Oops. So I have this little thing of rocks from Michael's. And I'm going to grab some static grass. Boom. I usually like to grab a few different kinds and colors. So what I'm going to do is a few dots of glue for my rocks. And I always like to get rocks that are like the opposite color of the base so they pop. So in this case, I'm going to get the like white rocks. Just like that. Maybe an orange rock. I don't do rocks on all the bases, guys, just the larger bases. Okay, and then I'm gonna grab some static grass, some big tufts. Throw one there. Sometimes I like to do like 2 really close. Get some of this dead grass. Remember, when you're doing grass too, it's always gonna grow a little bit more up against like a rock, because like that's where like the seeds and stuff will get like trapped, I guess is the best way to put it. So I like to kind of do it, and then we'll do a little flower. Just like that. And then maybe one more little flower. Back here. Boom. Alright, there's our base. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to quickly give the that blue a little bit of a wash. I'm just going to give it a little bit, I just have a little bit of the black primer here on my palette. And I just want to dull it down, so I'm going to just give it like a very, very thin, you can see how thin this is. Just black wash. Just to kind of mute it. And to like kind of dull it down a bit so it's not so bright. Kind of fits in. Hit some of those runes with a little bit of the black paint so they just pop out. Cool, that's it. So there's our base for our Forgefiend. See how he's gonna sit on there like this when he's all done. Basically like that. Cool. Alright. So that can go away. Base is done. Always feels good to have the base done, because then when I'm like ready to actually like do it, I can go straight into it. Alright. So let me just clean up my desk here because it's a fucking mess. Get my airbrush stuff away, get my glue away. And we're gonna do some blue painting today. Really important tip, guys, is like after you do like, I always like to clean up my desk when I move on to like a new stage. It just helps me I don't know, just helps me feel better about myself that I have a clean desk. All right, so I can take all the parts off this wood. Done with these. Done. I'm gonna keep this big brush because I might need it. Get rid of all the dry brushes. New paper towel. Knife away. And that guy away. Actually, I'll keep that for mixing. That guy can stay. All right, got my wet palette. So what I'm gonna do, I have a crazy idea. I don't know if it's gonna work. So I'm gonna test it on a little bit of this model. But basically, I'm going to try, hey guys, Moinks, how's it going, man? Vortex Beasts, Mint, I don't love them. So the reason I don't love them is twofold. First, it's a big model, so it's not gonna be easy to hide, right? Second, the mortal wound powers, they're good, but they're not that good. Like for the 145 points, I'd maybe rather have like, I don't know, for 5 more points. Like I think they're good. The problem is like, you have to ask like what role is it going to play in your army, right? So for me, the Mortalith, the Mutalith Vortex Beast, it's going to be more of like a, like I guess, mortal wounds, like close combat blended with some mortal wounds. And I don't necessarily know if like that's what the army needs, right? Like it doesn't do either of them great. I guess I should probably deal with this, huh? I'll deal with it later. So let's do a little bit of this. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab our Norman Blue, Thousand Suns Blue. Give it a little shake. Vortex mixer. So the problem is for me is like, it's a good support monster that would sit close to your backlines, right? But because it's so big, you can't really hide it, which means people can kind of kill it before you even get there. They even get there with their armies. Whereas at least like a Forgefiend is like smaller, you can hide it, or like a spawn unit is hideable. Yeah. So for me, it's like, and then on the other side, okay, so say you want to play the very aggressive duplicity version. I think it only really works is if you in that like in a threat overload list. So that would be a list with maybe like 2 Helldrakes, maybe one Vortex Beast, maybe a Flamer Bomb, something that you teleport up. Like maybe Dark Matter Crystal Flamer Bomb, and then you teleport up the Monolith. Like, for me, it plays well in an army with like maximum pressure, I guess. Because on its own, if you just send it up on its own, which a lot of people are kind of being like, oh yeah, just like teleport it up. Okay, well, cool. So it's gonna go up. It's gonna do like a few mortal wounds, sure. If your opponent's smart, he's gonna screen out anyways, right? And then it's gonna die because it's not that resilient. So you can't just have like this one with Vortex Beast and then throw it up and then be like YOLO, right? Like for me, you gotta like support it, I guess, and you gotta have it within like a threat overload list. So that's kind of like my thoughts on it, I guess. I don't know if this is gonna be faster, guys. I think it probably will be, but it feels sure feels slow. I don't think there's any version of this like blue first or gold first where like one's faster. I think they're both fucking slow. It's just like, what do you hate doing more? Do you hate painting blue more, or do you hate painting trim more? I'm just gonna do a little test on this shoulder pad because I have an idea. Okay, so that's version 1. And then I was thinking of doing some like contrast paint in the other one, seeing how that looks. I don't know, this isn't even the right contrast paint, but I'm gonna try it anyways. This is like probably too bright. Let's see. Yeah, that's not gonna work. There's probably a way here where you can find the right color contrast and just paint it all over the gold, and like it'll make the panels really blue. But this is not the one. This ain't it. So yeah, so anyways, I don't think it's a bad model. I think you kind of gotta build your list around it, and I think you need to have like a threat overload list. So maybe in a Magnus list, it'd be good. Not that Magnus is good. In a duplicity list where you're going to be like firing things up forward would be good. I don't think just on its own in like a regular like mid-board shooting list, it's good. I think there's better things. Like, I'd rather have 5 spawn. You know? At the start of the game, like say this is like the next GT that happens. I would at this, like, and this is just me being competitive, so you guys might think that I'm like a dirty player for this. Right? I always ask my okay, so these are a few things that I always do at every game competitively. First, I say, "Hey, have you ever played the? Have you like? I might say like, have you played the new Thousand Suns? Are you familiar with the new Thousand Suns?" I'd ask them that. They might say, "Yeah," or "Not really," and then I'd say, "Okay, do you have any questions? Like, is there anything like you'd like to know?" Right? And they might ask me, okay, like, they might ask me some questions, right? And I'll answer all those questions truthfully and fully. But beyond that, I don't need to tell them like every stratagem in my book, right? I'm gonna tell them what all my units do. So I'll say these are the characters. Here's the rubrics. They can cast spells. I'll take them through my units, right? But ultimately, it's really up to your opponent to like ask you the questions that like those kinds of questions for me, from my perspective. The current song is Andromeda. Oh shit. Sorry guys, I just have hope I don't get a copyright strike there. I don't know what I was playing, but sometimes like I have a few streaming playlists that are like stream safe, because like what can happen is if you play music that is not stream safe, you will get a copyright strike on your account, and you get DMCA'd and taken down. So it's really important that you are aware of what music you're playing. So yeah, so basically I was somehow not playing not playing the right one, basically. So let me see this. Chill step. Let's play some of that. I don't want a copyright strike, so I don't know what song that was, but I had to change it quickly, so hopefully I don't get it. Yeah, so that's the big thing, Connor. It's like, it's ultimately it's up to your opponent to ask those questions, in my opinion, right? Now, if I was an opponent, that would be a question I'd ask, right? If I had a deep striking army that relied on deep strike, I would ask, right? Like, and it's up to your opponent to ask that, right? In the middle of the game, if they're about to do something where you get an Auspex scan and you Auspex scan them, I don't think that's personally that's like a. Now some players will disagree with me. They'll say, well, if they didn't ask the question and they're about to play something, you should tell them. Now, here's the thing. Sometimes that can also be so here's the thing. If I don't want them to put something there, right? Like say it's actually good for them to put that unit where they want to put it, even if I do Auspex scan, and then I tell them, hey, I can Auspex scan them, and as a result of me telling them that I have a stratagem that can Auspex scan them, they don't put the unit there, right? So I change their behavior. So here's the question. Here's the ethics question. So say they don't know I have an Auspex scan, and by telling them they don't do a move that would actually be beneficial to them, am I being ethical there? So if I say, hey, don't do that, better be careful, I have an Auspex scan, and actually in my head I'm hoping that once I tell them that, they don't place their unit there, right? And that changes their behavior. Is that ethical? Right? Is that any different than telling them or not telling them? So I don't know the answer to that. And yeah, some people might be like, well, Jim, you're being I don't know, cheesy or whatever. But I don't see it that way. Ultimately, it is up to your opponent to ask those questions. And if it's a brand new book and you're in a competitive environment, trust me, when the Grey Knights book comes out, or if there's a book that I don't understand or I don't know the stratagems, I'm gonna study that book if I actually think that I have a chance to win that event, or I'm competitive in that event, or I want to play competitively. It is up to you to study the book, because it's not just about new books. It could be any book, right? Are you supposed to what's the expectation? 2 months, 3 months, 6 months? So what's the statute of limitations? Everyone knows Space Marines has an Auspex scan, right? Everyone knows that Space Marines have an Auspex scan. But so does that mean that if I'm playing Space Marines and they don't tell me about the Auspex scan, they don't remind me that Space Marines have an Auspex scan, is that bad form? You know what I'm saying? So it's hard to say, I guess, is my answer. Do you think so though? Yeah, so that's a good point, Val. Like, I don't know if I necessarily agree with you, right? I guess the question is like, it's not so much like what you should do, it's what is expected, right? So like, you could make the argument that in a situation like that where I know my opponent is trying to deep strike something, and it's maybe they're like, you know, their unit, they're gonna set up, they're gonna charge me, they're gonna kill me, they're gonna win the game. I know that when they do that, I'm gonna Auspex scan them and kill them and win the game. You could argue that that's a gotcha, and I would maybe agree with you. The question is A, do we have an obligation to tell our opponents every stratagem that we could potentially use to like stop them from doing something? Like, how far does that go? And B, if we don't have an obligation, then should we still do it anyways because it's the right thing to do, right? Like, do you want to win the game based on something like that, right? I don't know the answer to that, and I think there's probably situations where it could go both ways, personally. Yeah, like that's my point, I guess, is like, it's one thing to say like it would be like a good thing to do that, but like, is it like, I guess my question is like, are you a bad player if you don't tell your opponent, right? Like, what is the expectation that we have on players to give them that knowledge? How far should we go, right? I don't think there's an answer to that, because something as simple as, so here's another example. Veterans of the Long War, right? +1 to wound. That's a fairly like, basic stratagem, +1 to wound. Do I need to let every opponent know that I have a stratagem that gives me +1 to wound, right? That could be game winning, right? What about the Dark Matter Crystal? Obviously, usually I will tell relics to my opponent, but like, what if I have a stratagem that lets me redeploy a unit? Do I need to tell my opponent that, right? Like, where do you draw the line between stratagems that the opponent really needs to know and stratagems that I don't necessarily need to tell my opponent, right? So I don't know the answer to that, I guess, is the question, is my point. But like, if you do, like, I don't think someone is a bad person if they draw that line at a different place than you, right? So I might draw the line and say, no, I would tell them about Auspex Scan, but maybe I wouldn't tell them about Veterans of the Long War unless they asked, right? Like, hey, do you have any stratagems that like can help you wound? Then I'd obviously answer the question. But there might be someone that says, you know what, I don't even think that you should tell them about the Auspex Scan unless they ask. There might be an opponent that says, I'm not gonna even tell them what my relics are unless they ask, right? There's no obligation or, I guess, expectation that if your opponent doesn't ask, you are obligated to tell them, right? That now we could say that that's a good play. We could say that that's like sportsmanlike play. We could say that that's like, you know, that's the right thing to do. And I would agree with you in a lot of those cases. But the question is like, how do you police it? And also like, how do you draw a line? And should we make people feel bad if they don't agree on where that line is, right? I think that's like a hard question to answer. So like, sorry, I guess it's a hard question to answer universally. I could probably look at any one situation and say, yeah, you should have told them. Like, I could look at any one situation universally and say, yeah, you should have told them. But I can't look at, there's no like rule I could, or like kind of code I could implement across all games and say, well, in these cases you should tell your opponent, and in these cases you shouldn't tell your opponent. Like, that I don't think is something that's doable. I just think that's too hard to try to like, to police, you know? Yeah, like, here's the thing. Look, at most events, if you don't have a deep knowledge of the like armies that are going to beat you, you're not going to win, right? Because of those kinds of things, because of that lack of knowledge, right? Now, there is a ability for you at the start of the game to ask questions. And if you really are worried about those kinds of things, then there is an opportunity for you to ask those kinds of questions. If you don't utilize that opportunity correctly or don't ask the right questions and you end up losing, whose fault is that, right? You know, you didn't study the army that you're playing because you didn't have time or whatever. There's, you know, it could be a very good reason that you don't know. But at the end of the day, you didn't ask those questions, and you lost the game because of it. So and guess what was going to happen to you as a player if you lose to an Auspex scan? Someone if you lose to an Auspex scan, guess what question you're always going to ask your opponent moving forward? You're going to ask, hey, do you have anything that works like an Auspex scan? So once you lost that first game to a gotcha Auspex scan, you're never going to forget to ask a question like that. That's just, you're gonna lose your game. You're gonna say, fuck, I didn't realize he had that stratagem. I gotta make sure to ask that question, and you're gonna become a better player for it. So in some sense, you know, like, I think you don't it's part of the learning experience is taking those losses to things like that and learning from them, right? Like, that's a big part of becoming a better player is losing. And I always say, like, you either win a game or you learn. Like, there's no such thing as a loss that like, you know what I'm saying? So you either win or you learn. So those are kind of the two outcomes. I don't know why I'm stuttering right now. I can't fucking get a sentence out. I feel fucking like my brain is fried. I think this is definitely faster. Obviously, I'm not able to use my airbrush on this, but from a base coding standpoint, it's definitely faster. We'll see if it when it actually comes to like the highlighting of the armor. Since I wasn't able to use my airbrush, I'm gonna do it all by hand, whether it ends up being faster. Because if I have to spend fucking 13 days hand like blending all the panels, I don't think I'll think it's faster. Dr. Soto asks, 40K, where you get your brushes from or what brand you use. So my favorite brand, Dr. Soto, is Rosemary & Co. Series 33. This is a Winsor & Newton size 2. I also use Winsor & Newtons. I have brushes from Pro Acryl. I have brushes from, Games Workshop, Monument Hobbies. I got the fucking Squidmar brushes. I got some Citadel brushes. I got some... So I have a lot of different brushes. My favorite brand by far is Rosemary & Co. Series 33. Those are like my workhorse brushes. I think they have the best tip. They're actually quite cheap. If you want some, go to their website and look for the There's a set called the Workbench Warrior set. It's like 8 or 9 brushes, and it's actually like only like $50 or something like that. And it comes with like all the brushes, like kind of all the standard sizes, plus like a few other hybrid brushes and other types of brushes. It's a really good deal. And I would recommend, if you're looking for like a good way to get into those kinds of brushes, just go to their website. I order the Rosemary coats from their website. Winsor & Newtons I usually just get off Amazon, or sometimes I get in store at the local hobby shop. The Pro Acryls I got directly from them at the Kickstarter. So yeah, hope that answers your question. Pro Acryl is probably my favorite brand. I use Citadel, like for instance, I'm using Citadel right now because I'm color matching. So this is a Thousand Suns army. Originally when I started painting it, everything was Thousand Suns blue. Scale 75 makes my favorite metallics. Obviously I have the new Vallejo metallics too, but I just haven't got a chance to use them. But Scale 75 makes my favorite metallics. Although Pro Acryl makes really good metallics too. They're just a lot thinner. Yeah, exactly, Shane. I agree with you. Like, that's the thing, right? Like that's a... Look, it's really important that when, like, you take the time to make sure your opponent knows how your army works. So even something like Advance and Charge, you know, I would ask my opponent, hey, do you know how white scars work? Right? They might be like, no. That's when I'd be like, yo, they advance the charge, right? Or maybe be like, yeah, I know how it works. In which case, look, if someone says, yeah, I don't need you to tell me anything, and then they get gotcha, I mean, that's on them. Like, you offered to give them the info, and they didn't want it. So I don't have any mercy for people like that. The Fiend is looking sharp. I have looked at Warhammer Plus. Honestly, like, the problem... There's nothing on Warhammer Plus I really want, right? So, the cartoons, or the animations, they're cool. But, like, I'm sure they'll just be out on stream sites pretty soon. Like, I probably just go download them right now, somewhere, on some pirate site. And there's not that many of them, and so far, the reviews are not good. There's only, like, three episodes or something like that available. So I might wait a little bit longer. The painting videos I don't really want because there's free painting videos available from much better painters online. And I don't watch a lot of painting content anyways. The battle reports, I never watch battle reports. The one cool thing is like the White Dwarf archive, which I think is cool. But again, is it worth like subscribing? The Warhammer app is hot garbage, so I don't really care about that. And I'll never use it because I can't, until I can use the Warhammer app on my computer, like on my PC with the mouse and keyboard. I'm not gonna, it's not for me because I don't like to build lists. This is Victorian Brass, very close. Thanks for the follow, man. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on Warhammer Plus so far. So, Val, it really depends, man. I would say like not to measure it in time, but to measure it in games, right? So like, I would say like maybe like once you've played 50 games and you've played in a single edition, because every edition is different, and you played 2 or 3 games against each codex, I think you'll be on a pretty good level. Now, for a lot of people, 50 games, that might be like 2 years. Some people might play that in, a month. So it just really depends. And it can't just be like bullshit games. Like, it's got to be like competitive games at like a high level. I'd say like 50 tournament games. That's like, let's say 10 events. You play 50 tournament games, you'll be and here's the thing. Like with anything, not everyone is going to get good at everything, right? Like there are certain games that doesn't matter how much I play, I'm never going to be good at. Warhammer's no different. Some people I know that played for years and they're still just like very mediocre. And I know some people like Richard Siegler who played for like a year and a half, just started, and like they're fucking super smart and they just fucking kill it. So it's not just about, unfortunately, it's not just about like how many games you play. Like some people are going to be better at the game than others, right? I'm not as smart as Richard, which means I'll probably never be as good as a player as Richard. So how I can overcome that is just by playing lots and hopefully like just being very well practiced. One of the biggest things for me that helped me improve was like losing games and then understanding what I should have done differently in a specific scenario. So like, for instance, like in 8th edition, there might be a scenario where I like lose my character turn 1 to like, I don't know, Death Company that forward advances and kills me. And by losing that character, I lose the game. Well, what I will learn from that game is how to deploy next in my next game against that exact army so that doesn't happen to me, right? So the big thing about losing games, like you got to lose lots of games too, and you got to analyze why you lost. And you got to make mistakes and analyze why you made mistakes and how to not make those mistakes. So that's going to be the thing that's going to help you learn the most, right? God, Helldrake head is already... Look, I'm only doing the fucking head of a Helldrake, and I'm already annoyed by the fucking amount of trim on it. Look at it. What a fucking psychotic model. I painted 2 of these for Night Lord's commission, like, a few years ago, and I was like, I'm never gonna paint this again. And even just painting the head is annoying. There's so much, like, armor panels. Okay, that's most of it. Do you guys think I should do the belly in blue? I think so. Let's see here. Do up to there. And blue as well. Yeah, I mean, Duplicity Paint Studio is my commission studio. I'm not doing taking any commissions right now, but 'cause I have too many on my desk, and I got too much of my own stuff to paint. But I do take commissions. You can check out my website and my Instagram. I did a lot of it during COVID, but my work has gotten really busy right now, so. And summer's been really busy, so I'll probably pick up a bit more in the wintertime. But, oh man, I'm still procrastinating on it a little bit. I've been working on it, but the client keeps adding stuff. And like, he keeps like wanting to add more stuff, so I've been like, and I'm trying to kind of do it more in bigger batches, and him wanting to add stuff, like, it keeps kind of pushing the whole project back, and just kind of slowing me down. So yeah, it's going, but it's going slowly. All right, I think that's, maybe I'll paint this blue. Oh, I really shouldn't have done that. Oh well. Now I gotta paint this blue. And that's gonna get blue paint everywhere. Fuck. Oh well. Alright. Okay, I think that's all the blue areas. Now I'm gonna give the whole thing a fucking giant wash of Drakenhof, including the metal. And then that's gonna go from there. Yeah, Val, you might be right. The problem is like cabal points are just really, really strong. So it'll be interesting to see. I guess. Like I think they're gonna be good in an army like that too, like souped. Maybe I do these gold because I'm lazy. What do you think? Instead of blue? No, I think they gotta go blue. I think you might be right, but we'll see. The cabal points are just really good, so it's hard to give those up. I think the problem with 1000 Suns really is just lack of units. And they're just expensive, so I'm hoping we do get a bit of a... Like, I think they actually do compete, though. Like, The problem is Dark Angels and like, Drukhari and Admech are just so good that it feels like the army doesn't compete. But once the like those A-tier armies get kind of brought back down to earth, hopefully with chapter approved, and if there is like a slight points drop for some of the 1000 stuff, I think it could be pretty solid, like up there. I think the army just suffers from lack of like units, which means like there's lack of like builds, right? Personally. Yeah, the problem with Magnus is he's gonna die every game now. Without the 3++, he's just way too fragile. I don't know, hopefully, maybe, who knows, maybe we'll get a Warzone supplement for 1000 cents. Like a goat army or something. That'd be kind of fun. If there's something that like gave us more like more rules for the Zangors, I feel like Zangors are like where the army has some opportunity. Like if there was like a few hit and run stratagems, if there was a stratagem to make their shooting slightly better, like maybe make it damage 2 for a turn, you know. The problem is there's just like most of the damage is done by the same units. I want to try an MSU build, like maybe 15 rubrics, lots of small units of Skyfires, lots of Zangor little units, just like super cheap and cheerful casters. MSU, just go super heavy on them. We'll see if that works, though. We're gonna regret painting these things blue, aren't I? Well, I'm already regretting it. What models are you using for spawn, Connor? Like where the prints from? Yeah, I actually don't like the blue. I'm gonna leave that for now. I'm gonna do it metal. All right, so now let's get some blue. Blue wash. What was the models though? Like, what were the designs? I'm using the yeah, but like, what are they? I know you keep saying they printed them quick, but like, what are the like STL like is it like what do they look like? Is my question, you know? Oh, I can't. I don't think I get, there's no links. I think it kills your links because you're not, like, in mod. And it doesn't want you posting, like, dick pics and stuff. Okay, there's one. This is basically going to be the last step for tonight, guys, because this is going to take a fuck ton of dry. I'm basically going in with Drakenhof Nightshade, and I'm painting all the metal, all the gold and blue. Wash. This is why I like this method of like picking a wash that like you can do on everything. Like the blue wash, I can do on the metal, I can do on the blue, I can do it on the gold. And it's going to really save me a lot of time. Down the road. That's why I like something like this is handy too, a little bit of sticky tack. And that's why also I'm not too worried about getting like the blue like right into the edges of the panels, because the wash will kind of cover it. Just like that. Yeah, I'm using so I did some for my Nurgle, my Death Guard. You can check them out on my Instagram. But I ordered 6 of the Runestorm Demons from Forgefiend. And basically I take them and I cut off their weapons, so they just like looks like they're fighting with fists. And they're really easy to paint too, because it's like basically all muscle. So it's all kind of like one. It's all kind of like one material. It's not like a ton of different textures and surfaces. Yeah, the thing is though, most most events that aren't GW, except you can use 3D prints as long as they're like relatively similar to the like thing you're trying them to be. So obviously don't use like yeah, that makes sense. So you shouldn't have an issue with a lot of events. I'm sad too, man. I was looking forward to it. I think I was even the one that suggested it, the RTT. But like basically, the thing I was supposed to go to, like I was supposed to have this Friday off, or like drinking. Not that that's not a choice of mine, but the event that I was supposed to go to got moved a week because of reasons, and so I have to go, and I know because I'm going it's going to be one of those nights, and because it's one of those nights I'm not going to be in any shape at like 8 AM to come play Warhammer. In fact, I'll probably be awake at 8 AM given the nature of the event that I'm going to. So get this off my... So I'm hoping like maybe we can do an event for Attack X though instead. All right. Yeah, I need to start playing more, but I'm just like really busy right now, and most of my focus is on painting, trying to get the Thousand Suns army like caught up. Basically this and like some rubrics, and I should have enough that like I won't be worried about like playing. Obviously I want to get my Helldrake done and my Mutolith, but like those I can hit made slowly, but like this I just need this and like the rubrics done to get my like main 2,000 point list that I'm building right now on the table. So my focus is that. This was basically going to be my attack X list. Oh shit, I forgot to prime and paint these little muscle areas, but it's okay. The parts that I glued in after the fact, forgot to like even do anything there. They're just still gray plastic. Oh well. Figure it out later. It's too late now. We're committed. But yeah. So then tomorrow, Best Overall Show will be back. I have oh fuck, I forgot to do those parts. It's okay. I'll just do that later too. I got Daniel Smith as co-hosting. So Koska is moving back to New York. He's I don't know if you guys remember, he was moving to Utah a little while ago, but he decided to move back to New York, chasing girls, chasing his dreams, whatever. So Daniel Smith will be co-hosting, and then next week Politics and Plastic will definitely be back next week for sure, for real this time. And I've said that like 3 times, but I actually have I've just been, guys, it's just been hard. Like I know it's like this is easy, hobby and paint. Well, although it actually does slow me down a little bit, like less efficient than I normally be because I'm chatting to you guys. But it's always like, you know, streaming 3-4 times a week after work. It's like, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of work to put in, just like time. And like if I'm busy doing other things, it's like planning like streams, like planning guests, that kind of stuff, topics. It's something I haven't had a ton of time to do this summer, to be honest, just because I've been very active. I'm doing lots of other stuff, but that's okay. Winter is coming, which means more streaming, more being inside. Thanks for the follow, Pixelated. I would admit I would watch battle reports. I would go read, yeah, I would go watch some battle reports, check out like Art of War, check out Table Talk Tactics, check out Vanguard Tactics. So some of those like more competitive focused sites, they usually have some pretty good content. I would read all the Goonhammer articles on like metas. Like they post fairly good articles weekly on like what's good, what's bad, like where the meta's at, what are the lists that are like you need to watch out for, why certain lists are good and why certain lists are bad. Definitely check out like their website. I think it's Goonhammer is probably one of my favorite like sites right at the moment. I think they put out really good content. And then from there, I just like, you know, get into some Discords. You can join the Duplicity Paint Discord. The link should be in the show notes. There's other Discords, competitive Discords as well, where you can talk to people, ask questions, theorycraft, that kind of stuff. So that'd be like my suggestions. Yes, Eric, I do. 100%. I don't know about World Eaters. Honestly, I've never been a huge Corn fan. I'm sure I'll obviously add some World Eater stuff to my army. Do I build a whole army? I don't know. I've never been a huge fan of Corn. Plus, I hate painting red. It's like what my most hated color to paint. But Emperor's Children, 1000%. I would do Emperor's Children. Yeah, what about you? Oh, I mean, if Angron came out, that's a fucking day went by. Let's be clear. Gotta have my Primarchs, my boys together. Like, if I was doing Emperor's Children or World Eaters, it would just be like a meme army. It'd be like Angron and like 3 Lord of Skulls. You know, I'd build like that, like nonsense. Who knows? Honestly, it'll also depend on the models, right? Like, I don't build armies necessarily because I love the like story. It's usually the models. So if they come out with like a really sick looking range of Corn Berserkers and shit, and like fucking Red Butchers and all that kind of jank, there's a very good chance I build it. All right. All right, guys. He is all washed, including my hands. So I'm gonna let him dry. He's probably gonna take a good hour or so to dry because he's got fucking so much wash. So I'm probably gonna call it there. It's been about 2 hours. Thanks so much for joining me on the stream. I will be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. Pacific. Best overall show. With that said, I'm gonna go grab some dinner and do some other work. And I will see you guys later.